Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We are in the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 12, verses 14 through 29. Now he's talking to the whole church, not to just one individual. See to it that you live in peace with everyone. And what peace is this? It's the peace that comes from God through the work of the cross, right? It's not earthly peace. And strive to be holy or sanctified. And again, you are only holy through the work of what God has done. So lean into that because live into God's grace. He says, without holiness, you cannot see God. Why? Because God is holy. And if you insist on living in wickedness, you'll be estranged from God. And then we have a series of see to it's. Make it the goal of the church. Apply this faith to how you live together. See to it that no one fails to attain God's grace, that they receive it. See to it there is no bitter root. And there is a cross-reference to Deuteronomy chapter 29 where that bitter root is defined as worshiping false gods. And what are the false gods that we worship? Many times it's good things, but if they're more important than God, then they're false. Like, your job, your possessions, your family, whatever it is that's more important than God, then it's a bitter root. And it gets in the way of your relationship with God, and it will hamper the church. He goes on to say, see to it that no one is sexually immoral. See that no one is godless, and that they exchange their birthright, their baptismal promises, for the fleeting pleasures of this life, like Esau did when he traded his birthright for a bowl of porridge. And then he goes on in verses 18 to 29 to compare the mountain of the God of fear, the God of the law, with the God of the promise. And he says, there's this mountain, this physical burning fire, this physical mountain. It's one of darkness and gloom and storm, and yet we understand it because it's physical. And it is the terrifying God of the law that condemns us for our sin. And it talks about how there's this trumpeting word, that really blasts in our ears, a word that we beg not be spoken, and that is a word of command. And this is God. This is the God of the Bible. And it is the fear that if we touch this God that we will die. And it is also the blood of Abel that is a blood that curses us for our sin. But then he says that you've not been brought to that God, to that face of God. You've been brought to the mountain of Zion, the heavenly city, the New Jerusalem, the God of promise. You came to a joy-filled community where myriad upon myriad, infinity upon infinity of angels are celebrating, where the church of the firstborn, those born from the grave, have come. You came to God who is judge of all, the Spirit of complete righteousness, and Jesus Christ is the mediator of the new covenant that comes through the sprinkling of his blood, that rather than cursing us for shedding blood, it gives us forgiveness and freedom. And he says, this is the unshakable kingdom. All the things of this world that are physical, the creation, they're going to fade away. But the God of promise will be eternal. And he calls us, that is what we belong to as the community of faith. And that's what we are to strive to live into it. See to it you have that God. Well, thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.